If you love to read, then this notebook is for you. As part of the Forest Findings or Fall 2025 release from Archer and Olive, we have the release of the Bookshelf Reading Journal. This one features pre-printed pages to help you record all of your bookish notes, and in this video we're going to check out all of the details. Hi team, I'm Jess or Jashikarin on behalf of Archer and Olive, and while the bookshelf design does also just come in a regular dot grid notebook, their new reading journal features the signature 160 GSM paper, but with pre-printed pages to help you organize and keep track of your reading. This one comes in A5, B5, and square, with slight differences between them because the difference is in size, so we're going to have a look through all of them. Starting on the outside cover, each of the journals has a gorgeous bookshelf design on the front, featuring books, little plants, and other fun shelf decoration, and then along the spine of the journal, we also have these repeated. The design itself is embossed, but we also have some highlights with some gold foiling, which mimics the gold finish of the ampersand charm on one of the bookmarks. The design looks a little bit different on each of the notebooks to account for the size, so on the B5 we have a very similar design to the A5, just larger, but then along the spine of the notebook we have some additional decoration on either side to account for the extra height. On the square, although the height is pretty much the same, because we have a page count difference, we have a bit more decoration on the square spine, and then on the front cover, to accommodate for the extra width of the square, we have an extended bookshelf, featuring some additional stacks of books, and also an additional plant. Taking a look inside though, on the inside cover we have the same repeated elements from the front cover, just on a gold foiling, and rather than this book belongs to, we have this reading journal belongs to, and some lines to write down your name and contact details if you want to. On to the first page though, we have some notes from Archer and Olive about how we can use this journal to capture our reading thoughts, recording book moments and stories, and any kind of thoughts and reflections that we have. And just in case you haven't really done a reading journal before, there's also some tips for how to use the journal. Things like starting simple, adding your own personal touches, and embracing imperfection. While this journal is pre-printed, there are also some regular dot grid pages that you can use to set up your own things. And just in case you're not too sure what to use them for, we also have a list of ideas that you can put in. Things like a book recommendations list, maybe a book of the month page, a page for upcoming releases that you want to keep track of, or you could use them for reading inspired doodles. You may have noted that in the bottom corners we also have page numbers as we go through, which is going to be particularly useful for navigating in your journal. This A5 one has 192 pages, but the square and the B6 have 160. This page here gives us a summary of what to expect in section 1, or setting the scene, and we're not going to read over this list because we're actually going to go and have a look at the pages individually. As said, navigation in a reading journal can be quite important, so we do have an index set up here, which lists out the pre-printed sections that we already have, and also gives us some blank spaces for the additional blank pages that we have in the notebook. What I really love is that we don't have just all of those blank pages at the very end of the journal, we actually have some throughout, in particular in this kind of front section, so if you have any kind of year-long trackers or things that you want to keep for the entire of the journal, not just 1 month or anything like that, you can put them up the front with other pages that it kind of makes sense for those to be near. On some of the pages we also have some bookish quotes from some of the classics, this one coming from Virginia Woolf, and then flipping over we're into the About Me section, or About You as a Reader. You have a spot to personalize your own library card, and then also write down some other notes that pertain to you and your reading preferences. Things like, where do you love to read? What other hobbies do you have besides reading? What makes reading something you enjoy to do? What's your favorite book of all time? Your favorite book series? Any quotes that are your favorites from books that you've read? Favorite reading snacks or drinks? And describing your reading personality. Flipping over though, we also have a spot for our reading goals. So we can set this in terms of a number of books we want to read, or a number of books we want to own, and then also another space for other types of goals too. We can set a date we want to accomplish them by, and we have a little circle to check them off when they're complete. For instance, some of my reading goals are to grow my reading community, because I like to connect with other readers. I wanted to host my own reading challenge. I wanted to make sure I read every single book club book this month, because it's kind of poor form when you're a book club leader and you don't read your own book club's book. And I also want to host a cozy reading day with my friends. But you have plenty of space to list out all of your goals here. What's even better than setting a goal is planning a goal, so you have some space to add some additional notes about how you might work on or execute that goal so that you can actually get it accomplished by the deadline you set for yourself. This one has 3 spaces where you can write down when you started, when you completed it, and write down any additional notes. On to the next spread, here's where we have our reading wish list. We have space to write in the title of the book, the author, highlight what format we want it in, so physical book, audiobook, or ebook. And we can also write down the genre or main genre of the book. We have 10 spaces for this per page, so 20 across the spread. And while the number of lines is the same in the square, we have a little bit more horizontal space. And in the B5, we have 11 per page or 22 for the spread. Flipping over, the next layout we have is our TBR or to be read list. We have a spot to write down the book title, the author, and check off when we've read it. Or technically there is enough horizontal space here that you could write in the date that you completed it. We have 22 spaces per page, so 44 across the spread, while in the square we have 20 per page for a total of 40, and in the B5 we have 25 per page for a total of 50. If this isn't quite enough space for your TBR though, on the next spread we have just some dot grid pages, so you could continue the collection, and also continue that onto the next page as well, just in case there are heaps of things that you want to read. Of course, you could also use these two dot grid spreads for other collections, so things related to your reading goals or reading challenges, essentially anything else you want to include. These two blank spreads are also there for you in the square and the B5, but after this we're into the next section, which is section 2, tracking my story. Just like the start of section 1, we have a little summary of what to expect and what we could use those pages for, and the first thing that we have in this section is a daily reading tracker. This one is set up kind of like a year in pixels, so we have each of the months across the top and then numbers 1 through 31 down the side. We only have boxes enough for the number of days that are actually in each month, and just in case you want to use this one on a leap year, we also have a little dotted box for the 29th of February. You have a spot to write in what year this is for, and essentially any day you read, you could just color it in, or if you wanted to keep track of what format you read in or how much you read, you could use a color code as well. On the other side of this one, we have a book tracker. So in this one, we would write down the book title, whether we've borrowed it or lent it to somebody else, who did we lend it to or who are we borrowing it from, and then the date of the loan and the date of the return, just so that you can keep track of your personal library or anybody that you're borrowing books from, just to make sure that you give them back in a timely manner, so they let you keep borrowing books, or vice versa. There are 22 spaces on this list, or 20 in the square, or 25 in the B5. Flipping on over, the next tracker we have is a series tracker, and each of the sections we have in this one has a space to write down what the book series title is, who is the author, and how many books are in the series. Then underneath this you can write in the title of each individual book, what number is it in the series, have you read it or when did you read it, and what was your rating of the book. Because different series have different numbers of books, we have a couple different options here. So we have 3 spaces for 4 book series and 2 spaces for 8 book series. So essentially you choose whichever section is going to be an adequate amount of space for the series you're keeping track of. In the square, the structure of this one is slightly different. So we have 2 spaces that are for 3 book series, 1 space for a 4 book series, and 2 spaces for 7 book series. And in the B5, we have 2 spaces for 4 book series, 1 space for a 7 book series, 1 space for a 9 book series, and 1 space for a 10 book series. So if you like to read longer series and you want to keep track of them in a layout like this, then the B5 option might be for you. After the series tracker though, then we have the book logs, and this one also ties into the reading review spaces that we have after this. For each book log, you have a space to write down the title, author, genre, record your rating, the dates that you read it, what format the book was in, and it also has a page count here for where you can find your review for that book. This is also where the main difference between each of the reading journals come in. Because the A5 has 192 pages, it means that there's more space dedicated to those reading reviews. So in terms of the number of books that you get in the book log and number of reading review pages, this can do up to 32 books. After this general log format though, then we get into the book review space. Here we again have spots to write down the title, author, genre, and then format and rating, but we also have spaces for the date published, who you got recommended this book by, or maybe where the recommendation came from, what language was the book in, and where did you get the book from? So is it one that you own yourself, or did you borrow it from a friend or the library? We also have spots to record when we started and finished the book, and we have a space here that could be used to stick in the book cover, or you could use it for a decoration space if you wanted to. The 2 dot grid spaces that we have here are for a summary of the book and for any of your favorite quotes, and then in the bottom right we have how did this book make you feel, and would you recommend this book? each of those spaces having several lines that you can write on. This review actually goes over the page though, so we have this spread here, but then we also have the next one where we have some larger doc grid box spaces to write down your thoughts, key takeaways, and notes. Of course, this is doc grid, you don't just have to write in here, you could do doodles or collages or stick in pictures of scenes from the books or characters. This is your reading journal. We very much want you to make it your own. The actual structure for each of these reviews is the same, so having the first spread, and then over the page we have the second spread, but the structure looks a little bit different across the different sized journals. In the square, because we have 160 pages in this notebook, rather than having 32 spaces to record in the book log and in the reading reviews, we instead have 24. And then in terms of the structure of the reading review spaces, the actual sections themselves are similar, but the spacing is slightly different, mainly because we want to make better use of the horizontal space. We still have the title, author, genre, dates published, recommended by, language, where you got the book from, format, rating, when you started it, when you finished it, a space for the cover or any kind of art, a book summary, your favorite quotes, how did the book make you feel and would you recommend it? And then flipping over, we have those other 3 doc grid sections for thoughts, key takeaways, and notes. The B5 also has 160 pages, so rather than the 32 book logs and book reviews, it also has 24, with those ones having the same sections as before, just with different spacings. So some larger sections in the doc grid boxes, but still the same prompts for you to reflect on for each of your books. After all of the book review spaces though, we then have 2 doc grid spreads that can be used for anything you want, and then we get into section 3 called Reflect and Celebrate. Just like the start of sections 1 and 2, we have a little list of what to expect, and the first spread in here is a bookshelf. This one has 90 book spaces across 5 shelves on each page, and also has some other decorative elements like a little cat in the window, we have some plants, a lamp, but essentially you can use this one by colouring in each of the books anytime you finish a book, and you can colour code them based on your rating, or the genre, or the format that you read in, or you can colour them all the same colour if you wanted, or just pick colours based on your mood at the time. This can be a very fun way to keep track of your reads. And in the B5, this one looks fairly similar, just a little bit bigger. In the square though, we have 123 books, if I have counted correctly, so just a few more to colour in and record the books that you've been reading. But flipping over, the next layout we have is book bingo. It says play bingo by filling in 5 in a row, or all of the squares if you'd like. We have a free space in the middle with the artronol of ampersand, and then some prompts filled in the other squares. On this side it says you can create your own bingo board, or what you could do if you wanted to record like the date that these things happened or which book you read to fulfill the prompt, then you could write in the titles over here or stick in a little book cover. This can be a really fun way to gamify your reading and get you out of your comfort zone with prompts like explore a new genre or read outdoors if you're not the type to read outdoors often. Flipping over, the next layout we have is another reading challenge where you can see we have a bunch of ones that are pre-populated here and then some blank spaces that you can populate your own. You can either think of these yourself or you can find really fun challenges online. Over here we have things like read a book in 24 hours, join a book club, read 10 days in a row, and complete 5 book reviews. You could also make these ones a smaller part of your reading goals if you want to kind of hit little milestones as you work on them. On to the next spread. This one is for your reading statistics, or essentially like a year in review. Over here we have the main stats page, and then we have the book awards over here. So on the stats page we have a spot to write in what year it was for, how many books did you read, how many pages did you read, and how many days did you read, what was the book that you read the fastest versus the one that took the longest amount of time, and how many days was it, what were your most read genres and most read tropes, and how many books did you read that featured them. You have a spot to record who your most read author was, and how many books from them you read, and also your most reread book, and how many reads are you up to now. You can specify how many of each rating you assigned across the year, how many from each format did you read, were your books from standalones, duologies, or longer series, and how many books did you start versus how many did you complete or finish. On the book award side though, we have book of the year, so your favorite or top read from the year, what was your most surprising read, what was your most emotional read, what book was the most thought-provoking, and who is the best new-to-you author. Over the page though, the year in review continues, so we have more from the book awards, so your best book that was a standalone, your best duology and best series, what was your longest book versus your shortest book, and what was your best book in each of the genres you enjoy reading. You can also write down your least favorite books, or just one if you want to, and your least favorite characters. On this page though, you can capture your highlights from each month of the year, and write write down your favorite book from each of those months, or if you wanted to, you could print out little covers and stick those in too. This one is arranged so we have 3 months across and 4 months down, and while this structure looks the same in the B5, in the square this one goes horizontal rather than vertical. So 4 months across and 3 months down. While down here we highlighted some least favorites, flipping over we have spots for the most favorites. So favorite quotes that inspired you, your funniest quotes, most heartbreaking quotes, what quotes were the most thought-provoking, what was the most unexpected moment, which book had the most satisfying ending, what was the best romance from the books you read, the best character journey, the most vivid setting, books with the best world building, books with the most relatable characters, the best heroes or heroines, and the most memorable scenes. The actual prompts themselves stay the same between each of the reading journals, but the spacing and arrangement of these changes between the A5, square, and B5. Over the page, we have another spot for reflection, this one having several sections, so reading highlights, made an impact, reading successes, biggest surprise, what I learned, and then an empty space here for anything else you can think of. It's always good to have some flexibility in these reading wrap-up kind of spaces, so we also have some blank spreads that follow this one for anything else you might want to put in, whether it's related to the kind of reading wrap-up or end-of-year stats or anything like that, or just other stuff you might want to capture. Maybe making pages for particular reading challenges you're undertaking, making collages of your favorite books, series, or characters, or of course leaving the very back page for a pen test just to make sure that the supplies you're using don't cause you any problems. The paper in here is 160 GSM though, so you're pretty safe. In the back of each journal, we also have a gusseted pocket so you can keep any flat ephemera or stickers, or if you like to make little book covers to stick in your reading journal, you can slip those in there for safekeeping. If you liked the look of these reading journals and wanted to grab one for yourself, they're coming as part of the Forest Findings or Fall 2025 release from Archer and Olive, along with a bunch of other fall goodies including other notebook designs, pens, and decorative elements like stickers, washi tape, and stamps. If you wanted one of these reading journals in particular, or to check out the other fall goodies, make sure to jump over to Archer and Olive and have a look. Keeping a reading journal can be a super fun way to capture your reading thoughts, so make sure to grab one for yourself so you can keep your reading memories safe. As always, thanks for watching and happy reading.